And what I'm going to do now is on the board here, I'm going to explain exactly what we got planned for you today so that you have an understanding of how we're going to build the shape in a similar haircut, but in a different manner. We're going to today, instead of converging our layers here, we're not going to have a stationary guide in the middle. What we are going to do is we're going to take each and every vertical section from our pies here in the back, and we're going to pie section that, and we're going to then pull these sections straight back. And I'm going to do this where the flatness of the back here, straight back, and I'm going to continue that to right behind the ear. So we're going to just take all of our sections straight back till we reach our 4 basic sections, and as you could see, that's going to give us a little bit more lightness than we had in that original first section. We're going to do the same thing. We're actually going to use this one here as a guideline, and we're going to then pull that out to the side and use that as a guide, and we're going to take our sides and we're going to pull them straight out to that guideline there and layer both sides exactly like that. So you could see the idea of a box. Now, the other thing that we're going to do is as we do these layers, pie section through the back, what we're going to do is we're going to be dragging the hair out this way. Rather than up, we're going to drag it straight out this way. I am going to do a slight incline, meaning slightly shorter on the top, slightly longer towards the bottom. Okay, and we're going to follow that around and pull everything back behind the ear for the back area, and then on the sides coming straight out through the sides area. When we're done with that, we're going to go in and we're going to cut the top again in a very square fashion. So this is what I would call a long layer, but a very square boxy layered cut. It could be very strong depending on the length you create with it, but the whole idea of doing these haircuts to create a specific shape is really, really important, I feel. When you do a haircut, if it doesn't have a shape, it doesn't have any structure to it. What I'm going to do initially, and this is the first part, I actually explained this a little bit backwards, is we're going to take horizontal sections up the back and we're going to create a nice, solid, straight line on the perimeter. I'm going to start at my nape. I'm going to cut my line straight. We're going to then take it to the side, cut another straight, so we have a very boxy cut. What we're then going to do is, like we did last week, is we're going to separate our fringe area to the corner of the eyebrow. We're going to make our section through the side area here, and this is all going to be drawn down and cut to the cheekbone, creating a slide cut. So we're going to have a soft side there, and then what we're going to do is we're going to do a separate fringe which is going to be disconnected from the side. So what we're going to have in the front here is when we have our fringe area here to the corner of each eye, I'm going to take a center part off of the center of the left eye, and I'm going to slide cut a fringe which is a side fringe, meaning it's going to be shortest in the center of the left eye. It's going to come down this way, and it's going to come down this way. But this section and this section will not meet our side sections where we have our slide cut. So the slide cut that we're going to do at the sides is going to be about cheekbone, and then we're going to have a straight line here, disconnect on the fringe, which hangs over the shorter area on the sides. Time ago, and I've shown you guys this before, I believe, but I'll show you again because when you watch a movie twice, you always find something you didn't get to see the first time. Okay, and the idea is if I want to make sure that my sections are even, what I simply do is I'm going to simply take my finger to the end of there, to the end of there, and look at them that way. I know my bald head is probably in the way, but I apologize. So look at your fingers, see if they're on the same level, and if they are, then we can get started with our haircut. Close enough, what we're going to do now is we're going to just create that horizontal line, bringing everything down to this point. Going to drop the hair, and I'm again trying to keep length in this haircut because it is a long version. But with these mannequins, sometimes you wind up that if you don't take enough hair off, they don't reach the bottom as much anymore because of the lack of hair these days. And I'm going to just continue with this guide right about there. Super important, making sure that both sides are even. Don't ever cut this side too short. I gave you a hint last time we were here. Cut this side a little longer if you have to, then check, and if you feel that the length needs to take a little bit more off, then you take it off. But it's always safer to make that a little extra long after you cut your initial side. Going to take this next section down, and again, when you talk about the different height of my initial guideline, I need a good strong guideline down there towards the bottom. So that's why I usually tell a lot of times when I'm working with students on the clinic floor, take a bigger section. It depends on the individual client that you're doing. When you talk about the individual section, okay, and you talk about how big of a section you should take, it all is determined by the person who's sitting in that chair. It depends on how much hair she has per square inch, or he has, that's density, and it depends on what you're trying to achieve as far as your line goes, so that you can be able to see your guideline. For example, I just brought this hair down, and if I could not see the guideline here, I could very simply go back, take some of the hair, put it up to the top, and continue so I could see my guideline. So that meant that I took too big of a section down because I couldn't see my guideline. So that's another thing that we could always go and do when we have an issue with the length we're creating. Now, just like in the original haircut, when we did a one length haircut, for me to keep a corner and keep it coming straight out, I'm imagining a box. In other words, the client has shoulders. I'm cutting it behind here. Now, true hairdressers out there will say, well, that's not a true one length. And I agree, it's not. I'm dragging this hair back, so by shifting it, creates distance, which creates length. I'm creating length in my corners, but in reality, because it's not being cut where it truly wants to fall naturally, then it's now graduation. But who's gonna know that? None of your clients are gonna know that, that's for sure. And again, for me to be able to work in a salon in a manner that is, again, effective enough so that I can get my haircuts done quickly and effectively, these are some of the things that we show you to make sure that you can be efficient and successful at the same time. You know, there's a lot of haircutters out there that struggle with different things. The one thing that you should be well aware of is precision haircutting doesn't exist anymore. And when you talk about precision haircutting, back when it was the Sassoon days and the Trevor Sorby days or the Paul Mitchell days, yeah, they had to do precision haircuts because that's what everybody wanted and that's what they paid for. But to do a true precision haircut, you know, you could take your art form as far as you want it to go. But the reality is it's not sellable anymore today. So we need to sell what we produce or what we create. So I'm just going to finish up this haircut right here in the back. Now, I didn't have to. I could have done it like when we teach you guys where I actually cut the back and then do my side by tying in both sections together. But I just, as a hairdresser, felt that I wanted to do the back first and then I'll go and do the sides. Some of the techniques or some of the ways in which we approach our haircuts with the students, especially when they're first starting out their haircutting careers, is to make it easy or simplify it for them. the reasoning behind us having students, when they get above the ear, go all the way to the front is, one, to practice longer sections and to not have a variation in their section or their length at the bottom when they do that. So we're going to just continue with this straight line. And we got our back done. We would then take our client to the side, and we're going to take this horizontally. Now I'm going to slide cut this afterwards, but again, I'm going to take it and tie it into our guideline here at the bottom. So another thing that we want to make sure of is when we're doing our side sections and creating our guideline for that, never do you want to go in and accidentally take off the corner. For example, if I were to go in and tie this haircut in here and take the corner off, I now have a rounded design as opposed to a square design. So what we're going to do is we're going to take that right to the very longest point right here, and we're going to take that off. Nice horizontal straight line across there. Drop another section, maybe one more after this. Not too concerned with the hair coming from the front center there, simply because the fringe, as we mentioned earlier, are going to be cut in a different fashion. But I do want to just very quickly tie in my whole haircut before moving on. So we're going to now go over to our other side. Again, good, Rob? Yep. Using this side, coming down to our longest lengths. Head up in a nice upright position. Check lengths. Next section. To our guide, and then we'll drop the rest. Okay. So we are done with our one length haircut. That would be our preliminary part of our cut. Now what we're going to do is we're going to actually go into our design, which is around the face. And this is a part of this haircut, and part of this design is a classic face frame haircut. So when we talk about a face frame, it was done very, very square, hair short pushes long, swept around the individual's client's shoulders, and the softness or the shortness around the face is what created the illusion or the look of the haircut that they wanted. So this is, again, if you were to approach a classic face frame type haircut, this is what we're doing for you today. Tomorrow, next video or next visit that we will have, what we are going to do is we're going to go into a round layer. Round layers are next haircut classic that we do teach, similar to the state board, but what we would do with you what we're going to do for you guys, obviously, is showing you how you could create a interesting modern round layer. To me, round layers are kind of boring, just only because they fit the head shape and stuff like that. But, you know, when you talk about what to do with them, you know, I heard a few students talking about before we left pixies, and I want to see a new modern pixie. And, well, guess what? A pixie is a round layer with texture. So that's really how that works. Okay, so we had this, and this is a great question. When you talk about a fringe area, the typical fringe area is going to come to the corner of the eyebrow. okay, which is usually the typical fringe section. It should always be in a triangle. I did a double fringe where I took a small slither out here and did a fringe, a short flat fringe, and then I did a long fringe over that. But when you talk about the average client, when you take your comb from where the 4 basic sections meet and come down to the corner of the eyebrow, that is the typical point. We also mentioned, and again, when you do this, I could just take my comb and see where I'm at. I'm actually a little further than I want to have as far as a normal, and the reason being is my slide cut is going to be disconnected from my fringe, so I made it a little bit wider than normal. But you can adjust this. If a client has their eyes too close set, you need to make it visually like you would do with makeup. Try and get those eyes to come farther apart. And the way you can do that is by simply making the fringe wider so that the haircut is opening up this area of the face, which makes those eyes look a little bit farther apart. And the opposite occurs as well. And again, when you talk about opening up, if the eyes are too close together, open it wider. And if they're too far apart, close it in. Bring it closer to the eyes so that we can give the illusion that they're not too far apart or not too close. But again, the normal would be the corner eyebrow, corner to the eyebrow. Okay? Hope that's helped you. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go back to original when we talked about it the other day, because I did do a slide cut for you guys the last time we were here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to take that to where the ear meets the face, right to the front of that ear. Do not want to go back into my back, again, because I'll wind up with a diagonal back, and that's going to flow back behind her shoulders, and we want this haircut to be in front of her shoulders. So we're going to take that and we're going to do that for you on this side. I'm going to do my easy side first. As a right-hander, standing to the right side is my easy side, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring this haircut down and I'm going to bring it slightly forward this time. So rather than doing it in one length fashion, in other words, if I bring the hair down straight down in natural fall and I take this and I slide cut it down, okay, I'm going to create close to a one length type haircut. But what we're going to do today is I'm going to take a little bit more release of weight here by dragging that hair forward a little bit towards her cheekbone. And again, right from that cheekbone, we're going to come down and we're going to slide cut our hair off. And we're going to take that all the way down to the bottom, and I'm going to be leaving just a small amount down at the bottom here. So you could see that shortness starting right there at the cheek. And I'm going to again just attack that one more time, coming in slightly forward with my section, seeing where I left off, and continuing that slide cut down. Always assuring that the very bottom of this haircut still connects with the haircut we did in the back. So we're going to now see what we got. Cheekbone, slide cut around the face, and we're going to now be able to go and do the other side. Going to do the other side. This is the awkward place, again, taught by my friend Keith. We mentioned it the last time. Don't want to give you too many kudos, Keith. Maybe you're watching. I know Lisa was over in England watching one of his haircuts. I don't know if she's still watching us, but Lisa used to work with Keith and I. And he showed me how we can lower our hair cutting, hydraulic chair, stand behind our client, come down with our section. Now let me get this out of our way. And again, on this side, just a little bit forward with this section to the cheekbone. And now sliding through with the scissors, pushing. Do not close your scissors in any way, and coming down with that section of hair. Okay? Now, just visually taking a peek. seeing what we have, seeing the weight we left at the bottom, and I see I could take a tiny, tiny bit more off this side, see where our starting points are falling, and just finish this up. So, what do we have here so far is we have a haircut. That we've done the perimeter, back, sides, and last but not least, we have the fringe to create. As a young hairdresser, my recommendation is design your perimeter first. Then go into your interior design. I drew the interior design for you on the board. That's the plan that we're going to take. That's the plan we're going to keep. We're going to continue working this, but now it's come time for me to go into the fringe area. I said that we're going to actually keep that fringe disconnected from the layer, slide cutting on the sides by making them longer, so they're going to be disconnected. We also mentioned that we're going to be taking a section from the center of our 4 basic sections over the left eye. The center of the left eye is where we're going to go with that. This will be my right side of my fringe, and this will be the left side of the fringe, okay? We're going to stay right around the eye, just below the eye. We're going to bring it down to just underneath the chin. That's where we're going to be. And do I have to take it all in one section? No, I do not. I could actually take this haircut and take a section, take a section, take a section if I want, and then slide cut, slide cut, slide cut. But in this case, I don't know if I'm boring you guys or not. So we're going to do it all in one shot. Okay. Oh, thank you. Thank you for reassuring me that I'm not boring you guys. And I'm pretty happy with that, and I do feel it'll work for me. I could always come in and when we go in and we break the rest of these layers up, I could always take a little bit more off of that once I start my layering, but there's definitely a disconnection, as you could see here. In this haircut, you know, the short bits underneath from the original section, or where we originally did our slide cutting, which starts there, and then of course you have a disconnect. There they are very clearly from the fringe to this, and that's going to create some interest in the haircut. Again, you didn't have to. I could have connected that fringe right to that short area. That's the best thing about cutting hair, coloring hair, and things like that, and I think I mentioned this before, is there's no right and wrong. You can't make a mistake. Well, you can. Let me fix that. Let me correct my words. You can make a mistake, and that is if the client's not happy with the haircut you gave her or him, that's a mistake. But the reality is that mistake was made before you ever picked up this or this, because what happened was you didn't communicate properly in your consultation, and that's why you had a different picture in your head of what this client wanted, and she or he had another picture in their head. Unfortunately, the two pictures didn't match, and that's when clients are discouraged or disappointed with what you did, is because it wasn't the right haircut, or it wasn't what they envisioned when they were done. Okay, so we're going to lower our section, our hydraulic chair here again for you. I'm going to stand behind her, and again the idea here is to get my starting point of my fringe. You could see I'm just using the fringe that I sectioned off, and we're going to get a starting point here. And again, disconnecting it from the bottom. So we're going to come down, and we're going to just take that down, 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 down. And I might just take a little bit more off that bottom. But we're going to now take that and just take a little bit more as we go. And I do want to lose a little bit of the length here. So a little bit shorter, I think, than that. About right. Yeah, close enough. Okay. So that's really the perimeter of the haircut. And like I said, we now have the perimeter of our hair design. So it's great when you're a young hairdresser to be able to think about your haircuts in two different manners. So when you're trying to figure out how to draw or picture this vision of this haircut in your mind before you ever start this haircut, it's a good idea to plan it out by designing the perimeter first, and then going into your interior haircut and do whatever is necessary for the interior design. So the interior of this haircut in particular here is going to be a square layer. We talked about it at the beginning when I showed you what we were going to be doing for you guys. And what we're doing now is I'm separating my front from my back. I'm going to be designing the haircut to be very, very square. So if I look at it from the very top, I want a straight line out here. That's what we're going to be doing for you. And the way we're going to do it is we're going to use vertical sections, okay? And vertical sections are lighter in area, more moving haircut than the rest. But this design, because of the way in which I'm going to drag the hair, shift the hair, elevate the hair, is going to leave heavy spots. And that's really what haircutting is all about. Haircutting is leaving certain areas of this hair long and taking away certain areas of this hair to create a shape. So the idea of rearranging lengths of hair around a head is sort of like the the definition of haircutting in general is leaving bits of hair long and leaving bits of hair short, and that's how you create a haircut. So in reality, by creating this box here coming straight out the back here, we're going to have a corner on the right side, corner on the left side, but we're also going to have a corner up on top here, which is going to be heavy. And that's, again, what we want. We want to attract that. So what we're going to do now is we're going to start vertically. I'm going to do one side, then the other, then we'll go into the sides. I'm going to split this right down the center. And I'm going to bring out a point to you guys regarding how you should have your body position when you're doing vertical layering, because it is an important aspect, and also how you hold your scissors or how you hold the hair in your hand. One, many times I'll find students, and what they're trying to do is they're trying to figure out how to stand right in front of their section like this and be able to cut it. Well, it's very, very difficult. One of the things that you should be aware of is when you cut a long layer, whether it be a vertical layer or long layer or short layer or a round layer, one of the things you need to do is you need to know the two different hand positions. One of them is the hand position in which I'm showing you here, where I'm taking the hair out and my fingertips are up towards the ceiling here. So the idea of putting your body position, you still have to stand to the side of this so you can see it. You want to make sure that you're in the center of both your sections, and you want to come out to the length you want on top and then cut your layer. The other position, which is a totally different body position, and I'm going to get around here, is if I'm going to do this with my fingertips down, you'll see I can still cut the same haircut, but I think I'm out of, there we go. I can do this, but look at where my body is standing compared to where I was before. Now you might say, Mr. A, which one is the right way? Well, they're both right. And as a good hairdresser, if you want to be a great freaking hairdresser, what you need to do is you need to be able to manipulate both of these techniques. So when you talk about doing this or the other part, you should be able to do both. So what we're going to do is we're going to come out here today, we're going to bring out a section of hair, and we're going to cut this down. And as I said earlier, I'm not going to go straight. I'm coming slightly outward with this guideline. Of course, I want to make sure that this haircut does not cut into my length down at the bottom. So again, you could see that the bottom lengths fall out of my hand before I cut. Now, what if I wanted to make this haircut heavier towards the bottom? Well, it's very simple. I take my initial guideline, which I just did, I'm going to follow it, but if I did decide I wanted to change this haircut to be a little bit heavier towards the bottom, let's say my client has finer hair or something, what I could do is rather than bringing it out like this, I can follow my guideline up top here, look for my guide, cut it off, and then when it comes down to the bottom section of this haircut, what tells me I can't just take this and lift it way up here to cut? You see how that would work? Now, by doing that, by lifting it way up high, more hair is going to fall out down there and we will cut less hair. Again, I didn't decide to do that. I just want to share you guys the ideas of how you go about hair cutting. Where you want to leave more hair or get rid of more hair is a manner in which we just pull the hair higher or shift it farther, and that's the whole basis of hair cutting. But we're going to follow, again, straight out, just like I showed you on the hair cutting board earlier. We are going slightly outward with this haircut. I'm sorry, this guideline. So you could see it's not a straight up and down line. Could I have done a straight up and down line? Most certainly I could have done a straight up and down line. I'm going to continue through the side here. Now here's where we start getting tricky about the third section in our back. And this is where the haircut really starts to curve, or the head shape starts to curve forward. So now what we have to be conscious of is we not only have to be conscious of how high we're holding the hair up here, but also where we are pulling it back to our straight line in the back here. You could see the guideline underneath. Take it off. Move on to your next section. Continuing with our layers, probably another 2 sections on this side, then we'll go do the other side. Using a piece of the pie of the haircut, taking this, pulling it straight back to gain length and the squareness of this haircut. Okay, last section till we get to our side area. Take that guideline right to the corner of that haircut. Start at the very top, and as you can see, I just dropped some of the bottom. Some of you guys see me doing large sections in my hand. That comes with time and practice. And again, with time and practice, you will be able to pick up the entire section with your hands. During the interim, just pick up pieces of the subsection. And you could see right now, I hope you can see right now, that we are straight back behind that ear. So the same concept of when we did the one length at the bottom, the one length haircut, by pulling it back behind the ear, same thing is being done with the layers here to create that squareness in our haircut. Okay, so what I'm going to do now is I'm going to actually take this haircut and I'm going to show you how to follow your guideline on the opposite side, but using that other technique that I showed you, and that's with fingertips down. So this was with fingertips up. I'm going to have to come to this side of the haircut. We might slide that over a little bit more. And what I'm going to do now is I'm going to stand on behind my section, take this vertically, push that out of my way. We're going to be standing to the side here. looking for our guideline. And again, this is not how I would approach it in the salon world. See my guide. I would definitely be doing it the same way on both sides. This would definitely give me the opportunity to accidentally overshift the haircut maybe towards me or on this side and throw the balance off of the haircut a little bit. But for educational purposes, I want to make sure that you guys understand that by learning both these ways is very valuable to your education. Neither one is better or worse, doesn't matter. But I will tell you this. If you're like me, when I used to be a young hairdresser and I used to go look in the salon windows and I sat out there and they probably thought, who the hell is this guy? Especially now since I don't have hair, is I used to always watch hairdressers cut hair, especially the malls, the indoor malls where we, you know, the windows are always wide right there and I could just stand out there in the crowd and sort of just observe. And I did find that a large majority of hairdressers only cut one way. And usually, not always, usually, see, I can't see my guideline there, so I'm going to take a little bit away. Usually when I saw them doing this, it was in this fashion. Fingertips pointing towards the ground. Now I see my guideline, so I can take it off. See how easy that was to just take some of that hair out of the way so I could better see my guideline, and now I'm ready to move on. This will be probably the last long haircut for a while, simply because although there's thousands of different techniques or different guidelines I can use to show you these long layered haircuts, I gave you the general gist. So, damage to the hair, there's only two things that we as hairdressers do to hair that doesn't damage it. And I always tell my students that. The only two things that we don't damage hair with when we work in a salon is a haircut and a hair treatment, conditioning treatment at the sink. Other than that, everything we do to everybody's hair is damaging to it. So there's only two services we offer. But you all know, I think, the answer to this. What makes our business so great? One, they pay us to damage their hair. Two, they pay us to make it better and repair it. So I get paid on both sides. I'm good with that. Hope you guys are good with that too. So I'm going to take my last section in the back here, and we're going to be pulling that all the way back behind that ear, straight behind that ear, looking for that guideline, taking it off. And as you can see, the haircut is starting to take shape, at least here in the back. And now what I'm going to do, and this is important, is I try to get students when they're working on the client to feel balance in the haircut. Feeling balance is different than checking lengths. What you want to do is feel the weight of the haircut. You want to be able to see the haircut. You want to be able to know that the balance is there. Okay, so now we have that squareness, we have that length increase through the back area here. And what it is time to do is it is time to take that guideline from behind the ear to the side. Okay, so we're going to bring this out to the side, and on this side I did with this hand here. I'm going to look for my guideline, and as you can see, it's right there. We're going to take that, and again, just take that off. Now here's where we got to make sure we're okay, because we can't take the length off down at the bottom here. So sometimes on the sides, what I have to do is I have to raise it up a tad, just like we were talking earlier, to assure that our length does not get taken off. And as you can see, there's my length. I have to come to it. So I have to adjust that guideline from the back into the side. Just that little piece. And now we're going to continue with our side and then go to the other side. Guideline, just the top part. Look for your length through the side here. Make sure it drops out before you start cutting. Or make sure you cut to it. Last section on the side. I could take the fringe with me. I don't think we're going to be affecting the fringe area. I'm going to take a smaller section there. There's the guideline. Making sure you do not cut the length in the front. Right to the length. Okay. That side done. Coming to the other side. Using a piece from behind the ear as your guideline. Remember, that's obviously much longer than the section. Starting from the top, looking for that guideline in the back, taking it off. Now coming up to the side, bringing it straight out to the side, looking for that length. There it is, cutting just above that to it. Little more awkward on this side, because of the body position I am trying to share with you guys. What we're going to do now is we're going to go back to our 4 basic sections. And we're going to just do a point cut through the top area, and that's going to pretty much wrap up our layers in this haircut. I got one more texturizing technique that I'm going to do for you guys, and then we'll pretty much wrap up this video for you. Now we're going to start in the very center of this haircut. I'm going to be dragging it back to leave some length towards the front. I'm going to go from the center of the right eye to the center of the left eye. Starting at the highest point, which is where our 4 basic sections meet. Work our way forward from there. Establishing the length I want, and just coming in and point cutting that off. I do want to leave weight on the haircut in general up on top, just because of the shape we've created. So what I'm doing is really just taking that point, as you could see, the peak we made, and we're just taking that off to square it off a little bit. I don't want to lose a lot of the weight up here. I just want to square it out. And again, that's because of the basis of the design I want. Shape is everything in haircutting. Now you see me dragging it back and just taking that corner off, or that point, if you will. All the way back. Last but not least. Okay, done. Split that in half. On the sides, just see if anything comes over my guide on the top there, which I don't believe I will see, but we'll check anyway. Oh, little tiny little point right there. Oh, pretty much nothing. We'll do the same on the other side just to check, make sure the haircut blends. And then of course we have to blend in the back. Oh, we're good on this side. Oh, there's a piece. And of course, bringing this all back like I did originally in the center section. And now what we'll do is we'll take this pie section-wise behind here and see if anything needs to come off from our guideline up top. Just that little bit right here. Again, trying not to take too much of the weight away because of the squareness of the haircut we want. Using the pie sections. Good there. Good there. Check here. Really nothing to cut. It's good. And that's it. That's the structure of the haircut. I'm going to go in and just break this texture up a little bit, but I know that she's starting to take shape. I can tell that by the way the fringe is falling with the disconnected fringe and with the long bits in the face and then the short bits behind it, sort of pushing them. So we got these short bits and then the long bits in front. So there's a little gap in there. Also in the back here, you could see how the haircut dives in a little bit here. We got the layers at the bottom, but now we've got a little bit of weighty stuff going on up here. And it's just a shape that is, if you were to just do standard layers on it, the shape is just going to be basic. So I do believe in that we should wind up putting a little thought to every client who sits in our chair and making this a haircut that's special to them. So I'm not going to talk too much more. I'm going to just go in and break it up. I'm going to use a scooping technique. I love my scooping technique. Not going to lose a lot of hair here because I like the shape already. But just to bring a little bit of, I don't know, just a little bit more brokenness, especially in this weighted area up towards the top. But I don't want to lose the shape of the haircut. That's the whole key to doing good texturizing, is to not lose the shape of the haircut. That's really important. So just a little bit. And really, truthfully, guys, this is just for flash. I don't know if you know what flash is, but the haircut's pretty much there already. That's what I'm saying. But if you want, you felt the client had too much hair and they just want to break it up just that little bit more, take that bulk, take that haircut, you know, that you're not changing the haircut shape. You're releasing weight. You don't want that blunt of a line. Scoop it out. Now you notice I'm not going in really, really deep with my scoops. I'm just doing the ends, just to create a little texture on the ends. If I really wanted to go deep, then I'm going to change and start, you know, this technique has so many different variables. I could do it only a little bit right on the end, see? Just like that. Or I can go in and go really, really deep and really, really strong. So again, where and how I use this technique depends on the client. But I'm just doing this for a little bit of softness on those ends, those blunt sections. A little bit on the side here. Want to leave that fringe area a little bit weighty. Body position on this technique has to stay on this side. I can't switch body positions for this side versus that side because of the technique that I'm using, which is a scoop. It's impossible for me to stand as a righty on this side and try and scoop because I can't. Anatomically impossible. And now we're going to just break this up a little bit here. You know, so by me coming in and doing a long layered haircut and, you know, showing you that it can be done in a modern way, I think is important to your education. One of the things we always do for you is in the classrooms, almost all of the haircuts you learn in the very first few weeks of school in the haircutting section is that you have to blow dry your mannequins. You have to blow dry them because it's imperative that you see the shape of the haircut that you're making. And that's why we have you blow them out so that you can see what it's creating for you. Maybe at that time it's, you know, too soon, I don't know. But hopefully by the time you do get towards that 1,000 hours of graduation, you have an idea of how to apply these different techniques into your client's repertoire, or to your repertoire of cutting your clients and stuff. So that's what I wanted to do for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope our time together was well worth it for you. And again, I just appreciate all of you, and I appreciate you guys sticking around and watching with us.